on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
The Minister of Information has described as fake the recent report which suggests that the president's grip on petrodollar is threatening implementation of the peace deal. The European Union has donated 41 million to facilitate feeder road construction and rebuild livelihoods in the rural parts of South Sudan. And the Vice President for Service Cluster is calling on residents of Western Equatoria not to listen to some Juba-based politicians fueling violence in the state. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Helen Samuel. Now, the news in detail. The Minister of Information has described as fake the recent report which suggests that the president's grip on petrodollar is threatening the implementation of the peace deal. On Wednesday, the new report conducted by the International Crisis Group shows that President Salva Kiir's loyalists are the ones holding key institutions that handle the public riches, especially the Finance Ministry, Central Bank, and Nile Pet. Emmanuel Joseph Akile filed this brief report.
The report, titled Oil or Nothing, dealing with South Sudan's bleeding finances, argues that Kiir's grip on oil proceeds makes it impossible to implement key provisions in the 2018 peace deal. They include the economic sector reforms, the reunification of forces, and the security sector reforms and the constitution-making process, among others. All these require money, which the government says it lacks despite receiving millions of dollars monthly. The investigative report also argues that senior officials use the oil proceeds to sponsor militias across the country, undermining efforts to tame violence persisting after the 2018 peace agreement. But Michael Makui thinks the report is meant to destroy the image of President Salva Kiir and his group. Michael Makui was speaking to iRadio.
These are people who are talking outside the agreement and they don't know what they are talking about. Their target is to ensure that Salva Kiir and his group are destroyed. They are not honest, they are not genuine. Because our SPLM did not take them just like that. They were divided among us. We sat and divided them all, and it was with the consent of all the parties. Then people like our SPLM did not take them just like that. They were divided among us. We sat and divided them all, and it was with the consent of all the parties. Then human rights or the so-called what, I don't know them. These are the people who would all the time with the consent of all the parties. Then people like they try to create loopholes out of nothing. We sat and divided them all. It is not a genuine report, and I'm sure it is a targeted intention. In total, I reject it because it is a biased report. These are reports that do not even deserve to be responded to, and you can say these are fake reports.
However, the 42-page report also reveals that Kiir's confidants, including close relatives and royal military officers, operate as a shadow government, bypassing the institutions the formal administration controls in cooperation with the political opposition. This, the Belgium-based advocacy group says, helps Kiir retain the real balance of power and fuel discontent in Machar's camp. Reporting
the current interstate and international roads network consists of around 5,000 kilometers of gravel roads with approximately.
The European Union has donated 41 million US dollars to facilitate feeder road construction and rebuild livelihoods in the rural parts of South Sudan. South Sudan has one of the world's most undeveloped roads networks. The total estimated track length in the country is approximately 90,200 kilometers, which includes approximately 14,000 kilometers of primary and secondary roads and 6,000 kilometers of tertiary tracks, according to reports. Okot Emmanuel files this short report.
The current interstate and international roads network consists of around 5,000 kilometers of gravel roads with approximately 300 kilometers of sealed roads. Currently, there is only one international road, the 192-kilometer stretch between Juba Nimule on the Ugandan border is sealed. The majority of other sealed roads are urban roads within the capital Juba. All other national, interstate, and urban roads consist of badly or non-maintained dirt roads. The World Food Programme, or WFP, and the United Nations Office for Project Services, UNOPS, will implement the road construction project. In a statement, UNOPS says, and I quote, UNOPS welcomed the much-needed fund from the European Union to support resilience building activities, improve infrastructure, and reduce isolation in remote areas with agricultural potential, end quote. WFP will receive $26 million to scale up its livelihood and resilience projects that will benefit nearly 100,000 people in northern and western Bahr el Ghazal state and parts of the greater Upper Nile state, while the UNOPS gets $15.4 million to construct 115 kilometers of feeder roads, 2 priority bridges, and provides water, sanitation, and hygiene or wash. For his part, WFP's country director in South Sudan, Matthew Hollingworth, said EU contribution demonstrate their commitment to tackling food insecurity and boosting economic development in South Sudan. Reporting for iRadio News, I am Okot Emmanuel.
The Vice President for Service Cluster is calling on residents of Western Equatoria not to listen to some Juba-based politicians fueling violence in the state. Since June, there has been communal violence in Tambra County, which the UN Human Rights Commission for South Sudan recently described as a massacre. It said both SSPDF and SPLAIO in the state were behind the deadly clashes, with both supplying either side with weapons and ammunition. Earlier, the state governor blamed the escalation of the conflict on Juba-based politicians, notably Jema Nunu Kumba, the Speaker of the Peace Parliament, and Patrick Raphael Zamoy, the former governor of the defunct Tambra state. Others include Honorable Pascal Badindi, an MP representing Tambra County at the reconstituted TNLA, and Honorable Saleh Said Uko. Vice President Hussein Abdalbagi was speaking in Iba County, Western Equatoria State, on Wednesday.
I don't want you to listen to those politicians who snide into your ears to engage you in violence. They will just continue to create problems for you. No, we don't want this to continue happening. Enough is enough. South Sudanese have been dying since 1955. In 1972, and then there was peace. Again, South Sudanese died in 1983 up to 2005 when the Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed, and again they died in 2013 and 2016 in a violence. We don't want fighting again. Our people have fled this country. Your situation here is better than those who ran away from this country to seek refuge. If we continue to fight, this country is going to be taken by the foreigners. Please do not listen to politicians in Juba who might be fueling conflicts. They will use you for their own interest, and this is what we don't want.
You're listening to news coming to you from iRadio. The Human The UN Human Rights Commission for South Sudan reports show that the conflict between the two armed groups has left over 200 people and about 100,000 others displaced, mainly women, children, and the elderly. Church leaders, activists, and the displaced people themselves have called upon the national government to help end the conflict, but the calls went unanswered. This news is coming to you from iRadio. Over 630,000 people have been affected by the flash floods in 27 counties across South Sudan. This is according to the latest report by the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. It says Jonglei and Unity are the most affected states, accounting for 58% of people affected by the flash floods. In its September humanitarian snapshot released yesterday, UN OCHA said, and I quote, "As of 7th of October, more than 623,000 people were affected by flooding in 27 counties across 8 states since May," end quote. Upper Nile, Western and Northern Bahr al-Ghazal came second as states badly affected by flood water. It states that the number of people in dire need of humanitarian assistance went up in September. Over 2/3 of the flood-affected counties faced high levels of food insecurity. Schools, homes, health facilities, and water sources are also reported to have been destroyed. Furthermore, physical access remained the challenge for humanitarian organizations to assess and respond to needs of flood-affected people. Meanwhile, a measles outbreak was reported in Kwajok Town, Gogrial West County of Warrap State. And lastly, before the international news, health authorities at Bor Civil Hospital in Jonglei say the cases of snake bites are on the rise due to the devastating floods in the area. Jonglei, Unity, Upper Nile, Western and Northern Bahr al-Ghazal are among the states the UN considered the most flood affected in the country. As of October 5th, the UN agencies say there were about 623,000 people affected by flooding in areas along the Nile and Lol rivers and the Sud marshlands. Dr. Bol Chow Manyang is the medical director of Bor State Hospital. He says the hospital registers cases of snake bites almost on a weekly basis. Dr. Chow was speaking to iRadio in Bor.
According to the statistics, there were about 10 patients that were bitten by snakes. Another one, unfortunately, there was the one that passed away. I think took time due to a very venomous snake that bit the patient. So the patient just passed away. It was in September. Due to the flooding, it's rampant. Monthly, we get nearly 10 snake bites from people. But the presence of this anti-venom has really reduced the fatality cases.
According to the World Health Organization, about 5.4 million snake bites occur each year. This mainly affects women, children, and farmers in poor rural communities in low and middle income countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. You are listening to iRadio Afternoon News, and now Juan Mule joins me with the stories from the international arena.
Hello and thank you, Helen Samuel. Now to the international scene. In Uganda, a new airline has joined the aviation industry, targeting a huge number of people seeking jobs in the Middle East. The airline, dubbed Air Arabia, will have its maiden commercial flight on Sunday with a direct flight from Entebbe International Airport to Sharjah International Airport in the United Arab Emirates. Mr. Ibrahim Abdisalam, an official from Air Arabia, said the carrier provides a low-cost travel experience to Middle East countries like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, among others. Elsewhere, journalists Maria Ressa and Dmitry Muratov have won the Nobel Peace Prize for their courageous fight to defend freedom of expression in the Philippines and Russia. The committee called this pair representatives of journalists who stand up for this ideal. The winners of the prestigious prize, worth $1.1 million, were announced at the Norwegian Nobel Institute in Oslo. They were chosen out of 329 candidates. The prize is intended to honor an individual or organization that has done the most or the best work for fraternity between nations. And finally, a U.S. nuclear submarine hit an unknown object while submerged in waters in the Asian Pacific region, injuring a number of sailors, U.S. officials say. It was not clear what caused the incident on Saturday. They said the submarine remained fully operational. Unnamed officials told U.S. media the collision happened in the international waters in the South China Sea and that 11 sailors have been injured. This incident happened amid